The evening air was warm but carried a quiet tension as Liam slid into the driver's seat of his old sedan, the engine humming softly as he adjusted the mirror. The streets of Portland glimmered under the soft glow of the setting sun, casting long shadows across the pavement, and the city felt alive yet strangely calm. He had been looking forward to a peaceful drive after a long day at work, hoping for some time to think, unwind, and let the stress of deadlines fade into the background. Just as he was about to pull out of his driveway, his phone buzzed insistently, and he saw Ethan's name flashing on the screen. Liam hesitated, instinctively sensing that this call wasn't casual. Picking it up, he heard his younger brother's quiet, almost hesitant voice asking if he could ride along, and without thinking, Liam agreed. There was something in Ethan's tone that made him uneasy, an invisible weight pressing against the words that went unspoken, but Liam didn't push him for explanations. He knew his brother well enough to understand that when Ethan wanted to talk, he would find the right moment. Minutes later, Ethan climbed into the passenger seat, his movements slightly tense, as if he carried invisible burdens on his shoulders. Liam tried to start the conversation casually, commenting on the fading light, the unusual traffic, the smell of freshly cut grass from nearby lawns, but Ethan offered only brief nods, eyes fixed on the passing scenery. The silence was heavy, almost tangible, as the car rolled forward, tires humming along the asphalt. Liam stole glances at his brother, noticing the tight grip Ethan had on the edge of the seat, the way his jaw clenched and unclenched, the subtle rise and fall of his chest with anxious breaths. Memories of their childhood drives flickered in Liam's mind, road trips to the coast, laughter spilling over shared snacks, stories whispered under starlit skies, but the warmth of those memories now contrasted sharply with the uneasy energy between them. The air in the car felt charged, electric with anticipation, as if the city outside was holding its breath along with them. Liam adjusted the radio, flipping through songs, trying to find something familiar to lighten the mood, but Ethan barely acknowledged the music, lost in his own thoughts. The streets narrowed, and the headlights of oncoming cars reflected in the windshield, mirroring Liam's worry in 1,000 tiny sparks. He wanted to reach out, to say something comforting, but words seemed inadequate for the heaviness he sensed. The drive continued past familiar neighborhoods, the sights and sounds of the city both grounding and suffocating. Streetlights flickered on, one by one, casting pools of golden light that seemed to spotlight Ethan's silent struggle. Liam's mind raced with questions. What was Ethan hiding? Why the sudden need to ride along? What was so heavy on his brother's heart that simple conversation wouldn't touch it? Every turn of the wheel, every shift of traffic, felt like a countdown to something inevitable, a moment when the dam of silence would finally break. Ethan's eyes, reflecting the glow of neon signs and street lamps, told a story Liam couldn't yet read, a story of confusion, longing, and an unspoken need for understanding. Liam felt the familiar swell of protectiveness, the same feeling that had guided him when Ethan was a boy facing nightmares or bullies at school, but now the stakes were different. The quiet urgency between them was more subtle but no less intense, a delicate tension threading the space of the car like a fragile bridge waiting to be crossed. Liam reached out instinctively, resting a hand lightly on the gear shift, a silent offer of support, an unspoken message that he was there, that he would not let his brother face this unknown burden alone. Outside, the city continued its steady rhythm, unaware of the small, pivotal moment unfolding within the car, the ordinary streets becoming a stage for a quiet revelation. Liam's eyes flicked back to Ethan, who finally broke the gaze from the window, just briefly, with a flicker of vulnerability that made Liam's chest tighten. He realized that tonight, this drive would not just be a passage from point A to point B, but the beginning of a journey that would uncover hidden truths, bridge unspoken gaps, and strengthen the bond that had always existed between them, even if neither had named it aloud. The sunset deepened into twilight, bathing the world in a mix of fading light and rising shadows, a mirror of the fragile balance between comfort and unease, hope and fear, that filled the car. Liam tightened his grip on the steering wheel just slightly, feeling the steady hum of the engine beneath him, the rhythm of the tires on the road syncing with the quiet thrum of his heartbeat. He knew that the moment they had both been unconsciously waiting for was near, that Ethan would speak, that the silence would break, and that the drive would transform from a routine evening journey into a night of emotional reckoning, connection, and understanding that neither of them could have anticipated, and yet both desperately needed. The city lights flickered past, the air grew cooler, and Liam felt a strange mix of anticipation and dread, knowing that by the time they reached the next turn, nothing between them would remain exactly the same. The car carried them forward, steady and unrelenting, through the quiet streets of Portland, into a night that promised revelation, healing, and the fragile, emotional truths that only close bonds could reveal. The city lights blurred into streaks as Liam drove on, the hum of the tires against the asphalt filling the car with a steady rhythm that contrasted sharply with the nervous tension between him and Ethan. Ethan remained quiet for a long time, staring out the window, hands clenched in his lap, fingers tapping lightly against each other in a restless rhythm. Liam stole glances at him, noticing the way his shoulders hunched slightly, the way his gaze darted to the passing street signs and then back to nothing in particular, as if he were searching for words in the air around them. Finally, Ethan broke the silence, his voice soft, almost fragile, like a thread pulling itself free from a knot. "Liam. I've been holding something in for a long time," he said, and his eyes flickered to his brother, searching for a reaction. Liam felt his chest tighten, an unexpected weight pressing on him, and he kept his eyes on the road, nodding gently to encourage him to continue. Ethan took a deep breath, almost as if he were preparing himself to drop a heavy load he had carried alone for too long. "I don't know how to explain it," he whispered, voice catching slightly, "but I feel like I'm stuck. Everyone expects me to be someone I'm not, and I'm afraid of disappointing them, afraid of being alone with what I really feel." Liam's heart ached as he heard the vulnerability in his brother's words, the kind of raw honesty that comes only after years of silent struggle, and he felt a surge of protective warmth that made his grip on the steering wheel tighten instinctively. He wanted to reach over, to put a hand on Ethan's shoulder, to tell him everything would be okay, but he knew the words had to come from him, had to be coaxed out with patience. Ethan's eyes shimmered under the city lights, the faint reflection of street lamps highlighting the tension that had been building in him for months, maybe years. He paused, biting his lower lip, and Liam sensed the storm of emotions threatening to spill, confusion, fear, longing, and a quiet sadness that ran deeper than either of them could have guessed. I feel like I'm losing myself," Ethan said finally, voice trembling, "like I don't even know who I am anymore, and I don't know if anyone would understand me if I told them." Liam's own throat tightened as he absorbed the words, feeling a mix of sorrow and empathy that made the world outside fade into a blur. The hum of the engine became a gentle background to the storm inside. The car, each beat of the tires on the road echoing the rhythm of their hearts, tense and uncertain yet strangely synchronized. Liam took a slow, steadying breath and said softly, "Ethan, you're not alone. Whatever it is, whatever you're feeling, I'm here. I've always been here." His words were simple, but they carried the weight of years of shared experiences, of quiet support, of unspoken understanding between brothers who had been through life's highs and lows together. Ethan's hands relaxed slightly in his lap, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction, though his eyes still glimmered with the unshed tears of suppressed emotion. He swallowed hard, letting out a shaky breath, and for a moment, neither spoke, the car filled with the unspoken acknowledgement of pain and love intertwined. Liam stole another glance, catching the faintest curve of a hopeful, tentative smile on Ethan's face, a silent sign that he was beginning to trust, beginning to believe that sharing his feelings didn't make him weak. The drive continued, but it had shifted. It was no longer a simple journey from one place to another. Every turn of the wheel, every stretch of empty road, felt like part of a larger journey, an emotional passage from silence to honesty, from isolation to connection. Ethan finally leaned back, a long sigh escaping him, the kind that carries months of suppressed emotions in one exhale, and Liam felt a wave of relief mixed with anticipation for the conversation that was only just beginning. He kept his voice low, steady, gentle, weaving encouragement into the quiet, letting Ethan fill the car with the truth he had kept hidden for so long. "I've tried to be perfect, to meet expectations, to be the person everyone thinks I am," Ethan admitted, voice barely above a whisper, "but it's exhausting, Liam. I'm tired of pretending." Liam nodded, his heart aching with recognition because he knew the weight of such invisible burdens, the silent pressure to conform, to perform, to hide your true feelings. The city outside rolled by unnoticed, neon lights flickering across Ethan's face, highlighting the vulnerability, the sincerity, the rawness of the moment. Liam realized then that this ride wasn't just about getting somewhere, it was about allowing his brother to unravel, to be seen and understood without judgment, to breathe for the first time in months in the safety of their shared bond. Ethan's words spilled out in fragments now, sometimes racing, sometimes faltering, but each one carried a piece of the struggle he had carried alone for too long. He spoke of fears, of dreams deferred, of moments when he felt invisible and misunderstood, of the longing to connect without masks or pretense. Liam listened, patient, silent at times, letting the words fill the car, letting the weight of unspoken emotion find its release. Occasionally, he would interject with a gentle reminder, "I understand," or "It's okay to feel this," and each affirmation seemed to steady Ethan, like a lifeline tossed across the chasm of isolation he had been wading through. The hum of the tires became a quiet metronome to the rhythm of their hearts, steadying and comforting as Ethan's voice gradually lost its tremor, replaced by a calm that only comes when someone knows they are truly heard. Liam felt a surge of affection, of deep brotherly love mixed with admiration for Ethan's courage to finally speak, and he realized that the drive had transformed into a vessel for healing, a shared space where honesty and vulnerability were allowed to flourish. Time seemed suspended as they continued through the city, street after street passing unnoticed, because the journey had become internal, emotional, profound, and necessary. By the time they reached a quieter stretch, with fewer cars and softer lighting, Ethan's shoulders had relaxed almost completely, his fingers resting loosely on his lap, his gaze less distant, more present. Liam glanced at him, heart full, realizing that the simple act of sharing, of speaking truth into the safety of a loved one's presence, had begun to lift the heavy fog of fear and loneliness that Ethan had carried for so long. There was a fragile, tentative hope in the air now, a quiet promise that this night would mark a turning point, that the bond between them had deepened in a way neither had fully anticipated, and that the remaining journey would be about more than roads and destinations, it would be about understanding, healing, and a closeness forged in honesty and trust. Ethan exhaled once more, a longer, steadier breath, the tension in his jaw easing, a faint glimmer of relief in his eyes, and Liam allowed himself a small, private smile, knowing that tonight was only the beginning of a long conversation, a long emotional journey, and a night that would leave them both forever changed, their connection strengthened by words finally spoken, hearts finally opened, and the quiet, unbreakable bond of brotherhood reaffirmed in the intimate cocoon of a car carrying them through the soft glow of Portland's night. The freeway stretched endlessly ahead, the night sky a dark canvas dotted with faint stars, and the city lights behind them flickering like distant memories as Liam drove with steady hands, the hum of the engine creating a calm rhythm that contrasted with the storm of emotions inside the car. Ethan sat beside him, quieter now than before, yet the weight of what he had shared still lingered between them, like an invisible thread pulling them closer. Liam stole glances at his brother, noticing how the soft glow of the dashboard lights highlighted the vulnerability in Ethan's eyes, the slight tremor of his lips, and the restless movement of his fingers as they fidgeted in his lap. The silence wasn't empty anymore, it was heavy with meaning, filled with unspoken questions, tentative trust, and the fragile beginnings of emotional intimacy that neither of them had allowed themselves in years. "You don't have to carry this alone," Liam said finally, voice gentle but steady, cutting through the hum of the tires and the low rush of the wind against the car. Ethan exhaled shakily, leaning back into the seat, the tension in his shoulders slowly melting as the words sank in. Memories of childhood drives came flooding back to Liam, the times they had laughed until their sides ached, the long summer afternoons with ice cream in hand, the quiet nights when they had shared secrets under starlit skies. Those moments, once distant and fragmented, now felt connected to the present, reminding Liam of the enduring bond they shared, a bond that could hold them steady through any storm. Ethan's eyes glimmered with a mixture of relief and fear, as if opening up had released part of the pressure he had carried for so long, yet left him exposed and unsure of what would come next. Liam's heart ached at the sight, a combination of empathy, love, and longing, the kind of profound connection that only comes when someone finally shows the parts of themselves they've hidden from the world. "I've missed this. I've missed being able to tell you things," Ethan admitted softly, voice almost breaking, "and I didn't realize how much it hurt to hold it all in." Liam nodded, a lump forming in his throat, knowing exactly what his brother meant, remembering his own moments of silence, of holding back, of fearing judgment, and understanding the courage it took for Ethan to speak. The freeway seemed endless, but with each mile, the emotional distance between them shrank, replaced by a warmth neither had expected, a quiet intimacy that wasn't romantic in a conventional sense but carried a depth of connection that touched something deeper, something tender and profoundly human. Liam glanced at Ethan again, catching the faintest curve of a smile, hesitant but real, a small beacon of hope in the night, and he felt a swell of emotion that made his chest tighten and his fingers grip the steering wheel just a little more firmly. The cityscape blurred past them, neon signs flickering reflections in the windshield, mirroring the fleeting glimpses of vulnerability and honesty that had appeared in Ethan's eyes. "Whatever you're feeling, it's okay," Liam said, voice low and steady. "I don't need you to explain everything right now. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Ethan's hand twitched slightly, a subtle movement that spoke volumes, and Liam knew that trust was building, that the fragile walls Ethan had kept around his heart were starting to soften. The tires hummed against the asphalt, the faint breeze carrying the distant sounds of the city, and the car felt like a private world, a space suspended in time where nothing existed except the two of them, their hearts aligned in unspoken understanding, their breaths slow and measured, their emotions raw yet safe. Ethan leaned his head slightly back, eyes closing for a brief moment, letting himself feel the relief, the comfort, the quiet joy of being seen and understood, and Liam felt a rush of tenderness, wishing he could shield his brother from every fear, every doubt, every lingering insecurity that had shadowed his life. "I didn't realize how much I needed this, how much I needed you," Ethan whispered, voice barely audible, and Liam's chest ached at the sincerity, at the raw honesty, at the quiet longing that resonated between them. The road stretched forward, empty and forgiving, giving them space to explore emotions that had been pent up for years, emotions that demanded release, recognition, and care. Liam adjusted the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of Ethan's relaxed profile, the tension fading from his face, replaced by a glow of vulnerability and newfound openness, and he felt the quiet thrill of connection, the kind that transcends words, the kind that lingers long after the night ends. Ethan's voice came again, softer now, more assured. "It feels like I can finally breathe, even just a little." Liam smiled faintly, heart swelling, knowing that the simple act of being together, of listening, of holding space for each other, had shifted something profound between them, that the night itself had become a catalyst for healing, intimacy, and emotional depth. Time seemed to stretch, each moment imbued with significance, each pause carrying the weight of months of unspoken truths, each glance a testament to trust and love that didn't need to be defined, only felt. The freeway seemed endless, but neither cared about the distance or the destination. What mattered was this: the ride, the conversation, the shared breath, the soft understanding that they were no longer alone, that they had found a haven in each other's presence, a safe space where honesty could flourish, where hearts could speak freely, and where the quiet, mature emotions of longing, heartbreak, and connection could be felt and cherished without fear or judgment. Liam's voice broke the quiet again, gentle and warm. "I'm proud of you, for saying all this, for trusting me." Ethan's lips curved into a small, genuine smile, a fragile but promising symbol of the bond that had deepened in the last few hours, and Liam felt a profound mixture of relief, love, and quiet joy that made his grip on the wheel almost reverent. The city lights faded behind them as they entered quieter roads, the stars above faintly twinkling, and Liam realized that this drive, this conversation, this night, had changed something fundamental, something about the way they would relate to each other from now on, something about the depth of connection, the acknowledgement of vulnerability, the unspoken understanding of hearts willing to trust and feel deeply together. Ethan shifted slightly in his seat, the soft exhale of relief still lingering, the faint glimmer of hope shining through his eyes, and Liam knew without words that the next part of their journey would continue this tender exploration, a slow unfolding of hearts, emotions, and a bond strengthened by courage, honesty, and love in its purest, most human form. The tires rolled forward, steady and calm, carrying them through the night, carrying them toward understanding, toward healing, and toward the quiet, powerful connection that only comes when someone opens their heart and allows another to truly see them, and in that space, the hum of the engine, the soft glow of the dashboard, and the endless road ahead all became part of a sacred, emotional rhythm that neither brother would forget, a night that would linger in memory, a ride that became far more than a journey. From one place to another, it became a journey into the heart, into trust, into the quiet intimacy of being truly known. The night had deepened, and the roads outside were quiet, lined with faint streetlights that cast soft reflections on the windshield as Liam drove with steady hands, the hum of the tires on asphalt like a comforting heartbeat, carrying both him and Ethan through the darkened city that seemed to pause just for them, holding space for the fragile, tender moment that had grown between the brothers over the last few hours. Ethan, sitting beside him, had gradually relaxed, his earlier tension dissolving into a calm that was both strange and beautiful, a softness in his eyes that made Liam's chest tighten with a mixture of relief, love, and something almost unspoken yet profound, a connection deeper than words could fully express. They drove past familiar streets, the quiet hum of the engine and the rhythmic passing of road lines marking the passage of time, yet time itself seemed suspended, the night stretching infinitely, giving them a space where vulnerability could breathe and hearts could speak without fear or interruption. Liam glanced at Ethan, noticing the subtle shifts in posture, the slight ease in the hands that had been clenched for so long, the tentative curves of a smile that suggested trust, comfort, and even a quiet longing to share more, to connect more deeply, and Liam's own heart responded in kind, beating with gentle anticipation, protective instinct, and the warmth of profound emotional intimacy. "You don't have to carry everything," Liam said softly, his voice low but steady. "I'm here, and I always will be. Whatever you're feeling is okay." Ethan's lips parted slightly, a small exhale escaping as if the words themselves had been trapped in his chest for too long, and he shifted closer, not in a literal sense, but in a way that radiated openness, trust, and the deep yearning to be seen, to be understood, to be accepted exactly as he was, without judgment. The city lights flickered past, neon signs and distant headlights painting fleeting patterns across Ethan's face, illuminating the raw honesty in his eyes and the quiet vulnerability that Liam had always sensed but never fully seen until this night. He listened as Ethan spoke again, fragments of thoughts spilling out in a hurried, hesitant rhythm, sometimes faltering, sometimes racing, about dreams, fears, regrets, and desires, each word carrying a weight that had been bottled up for years, each pause pregnant with meaning, each glance conveying emotions too deep for language to fully contain. Liam responded with gentle affirmations, short sentences that carried the strength of presence, the assurance of care, and the quiet gravity of someone who truly understood, letting Ethan fill the space between them with his feelings while he held the safe, steady ground that allowed trust to flourish. The tires hummed a constant song beneath them, the faint breeze from the cracked window carrying the night air into the car, mingling with the scent of Ethan's cologne, subtle and comforting, a grounding detail in the emotional intensity of the moment, a reminder that the world outside still existed even as they navigated the landscape of the heart. Ethan's eyes glimmered with unshed tears, a mixture of relief and lingering uncertainty, yet the gentle reassurance from Liam seemed to anchor him, to let him believe that opening up was not weakness but a bridge, a conduit to connection, healing, and understanding. Memories of shared childhood drives, laughter echoing in warm summer evenings, whispered secrets under starlit skies, and moments of mutual support resurfaced, weaving into the present, creating a tapestry of love, nostalgia, and quiet intimacy that made the hum of the car feel sacred, a vessel for emotions that had long been silenced. Liam felt a swell of emotion that was tender, protective, and slightly bittersweet, a mix of longing for the years lost to distance and silence, and deep gratitude for the night that had brought them closer, that had allowed Ethan to speak, to trust, and to feel seen. The road stretched ahead, empty and forgiving, offering them space to continue unraveling, to continue exploring the vulnerability and emotions that had begun to surface, a silent agreement that nothing rushed them, that the night itself was a companion in their quiet journey of understanding. Ethan shifted slightly, eyes bright yet calm, and whispered softly, "I didn't realize how much I needed this, just to talk, to be heard." Liam's chest tightened, a lump forming in his throat, and he allowed himself a quiet smile, the kind that speaks without words, a signal that he felt the same, that he understood, that he had always been here, ready to listen, ready to hold, ready to accept. Each mile passed with a rhythm that mirrored the beating of their hearts, steady, aligned, and the darkness outside became a backdrop for the fragile intimacy growing in the car, a private sanctuary where emotions, longing, and unspoken feelings could exist safely, be acknowledged, and be cherished without fear. The subtle glow of the dashboard reflected in Ethan's eyes as he continued to speak in hushed tones, each word revealing layers of complexity, layers of emotion that Liam had sensed but never fully witnessed, layers that spoke of hope, heartbreak, longing, and the desire for a connection that transcended everyday conversation. Liam responded with quiet understanding, the kind that doesn't interrupt or question, but simply honors the presence, the courage, and the honesty of the one speaking, letting Ethan feel both heard and valued, allowing the silence between sentences to carry the weight of empathy, love, and the comfort of shared human experience. The tires hummed, the engine purred, and the city faded behind them as they drove through quieter neighborhoods, the lights dimmer, the night more still, offering them a cocoon of time and space where hearts could align, emotions could flow freely, and the unspoken understanding between them could deepen into something permanent, subtle, and profoundly human. Ethan's breathing slowed, more measured now, his posture softened, and the faintest smile played at the corners of his lips, signaling a tentative but real sense of relief, connection, and belonging, a quiet acknowledgement that the bond between them had transformed, strengthened, and matured in ways neither had expected. Liam felt the hum of the tires beneath them, steady and soothing, as he continued to drive, silently marveling at the depth of trust, love, and quiet longing that had emerged from a night of shared words, unspoken understanding, and emotional honesty. The city had faded into darkness behind them, but the glow of the dashboard, the rhythm of the road, and the warmth of shared vulnerability created a space that felt eternal, a private world where the weight of years could be lifted, hearts could connect, and the subtle romance of trust, longing, and understanding could bloom quietly between them. Ethan finally exhaled, a long, steady release, leaning back slightly as if letting the night itself carry away the remnants of tension, and Liam's hand remained close to the gear shift, a quiet reminder of presence, support, and unwavering care. Each word, each glance, each small movement became a language of its own, a silent communication of trust, tenderness, and love that transcended labels, boundaries, and expectation, a connection so deep that it needed no grand gestures, only the simple act of being together, of listening, of holding space, and of allowing the heart to speak freely. The road stretched on, empty yet infinite, and Liam knew that this night, this ride, this shared space in the quiet glow of the dashboard and the hum of the tires, had transformed something fundamental in both of them, the understanding that they were never alone, that they could be seen, heard, and loved fully, and that the fragile, intimate bond forged in the quiet of a night drive would linger forever in the spaces between memory, emotion, and heart. The car moved steadily, carrying them forward, but the journey had already reached a destination of the heart, a place where trust, vulnerability, longing, and mature love coexisted safely, where the unspoken romance of connection and understanding had been born, and where both brothers, in their own quiet way, had found comfort, hope, and the promise of continued closeness that would outlast the night, outlast the city, and outlast every road they would ever travel together. If you want, I can now compile all 4 parts into a polished single 4,000-word YouTube storytelling script with emotional pacing, natural hooks, and dramatic tension, ready for narration. This will feel cinematic, engaging, and fully optimized for your audience. Do you want me to do that? If you want, I can write part 4 next in the same 1,000-word, fast-paced, emotionally rich single-paragraph style, bringing the story to a heartfelt, romantic, and dramatic conclusion perfect for YouTube storytelling. Do you want me to continue with part 4? If you want, I can write part 3 next in the same fast-paced, emotional 1,000-word single-paragraph style, building the connection deeper and adding romantic, dramatic tension exactly for YouTube storytelling. Do you want me to continue with part 3? If you want, I can also do part 2 in the same fast-paced, single-paragraph style for 1,000 words, so your story is ready for YouTube narration with cliffhangers and emotional depth. Do you want me to do part 2 next?